What is the most physically painful experience you've had? When my spinal cord collapsed down onto the nerves going to my legs, I legitimately wanted to die. WTF? How does that happen? Sounds so awful. Osteoarthritis in time. I can't tell you the number of nights I've woken up wishing I was only a torso. Only thing worse were the injections in my back that were supposed to help. We're going to give you a sedative. Next time give me more than an Ativan and add a stick to bite down on. Toss up between kidney stones and appendix bursting. Wanted to die. Came here to say this. Appendix burst. Insane pain. 1 week in hospital for infection. It was just horrible. Literally an organ bursting inside you. Were there any symptoms to begin with? Or is this one of those things that can just randomly happen to anyone without warning? You'll feel it, but it's hard to know that it's the appendix. Feels like a stomach ache increasing in intensity over time from what I recall. Moving hurts quite a bit, especially if you wait before getting it checked out. Or you could be like me and not present with anything but some abdominal discomfort, no fever, no loss of appetite. I'm grateful they did a CT on me to check and make sure, otherwise it could have been dismissed as gastro. I went from CT to surgery in like 3 hours. Had an abscess tooth. For 2 weeks, my life was nothing but absolute misery, and nothing would kill the pain. At one point, the dentist had to drip numbing agents on the exposed root because it would not freeze, and that felt like a hot needle being jammed behind my eye. Cue a new dentist phobia that has me terrified to even call them when I know there's an issue. My mom had an abscess tooth, and at the worst stage she cried worse than I personally have ever heard her cry. Awful stuff. An ovarian endometric cyst rupturing. I remember taking about 10 minutes to crawl down the stairs to get to the phone so I could call my mom, 100% convinced I was dying. I woke up one morning before school and told my mom I felt like I was going to be sick. She sent me to school anyways. I threw up twice on my way to my first class. Then I threw up during that class and went to the nurse. I threw up in the nurse's office probably 10x by the time my mom came back for me, 45 minutes. She took me home, at roughly 9 a.m., thinking it was just a stomach bug, and went back to work. She came home by 5 p.m. and I had thrown up possibly another 15-30x since she left me at home. Instead of going to the doctors, she rushed me straight to the ER, worried my appendix burst. Threw up another 3x in the waiting room. I threw up heave somewhere between 30-60x in less than 12 hours at 11 years old. I legitimately thought that this was the end and I was dying with how awful the pain was. All to get told, yeah, it looks like you had an ovarian cyst rupture, so you might be getting your period soon. 11 years old, hadn't even had my first period yet, and my female organs already wanted me to feel like I was dying. Jesus, so that's what a cyst does? I've been in danger of developing them since I was 13, but I was never told what happens. I'll be taking my yearly examination more seriously now, thank you very much, Edit. Okay, I appreciate all the responses that tell me that getting cysts is either a living hell or absolutely chill lamau. The great advice, though, ovary havers, get your regular checkups so you know about your cyst situation. Advocate for yourself at the doctors. Get to know your body. Birth control and providers literally save lives. From what I know, this is actually pretty mild. I was lucky that it ruptured and the gross stuff was just floating in my system. My system rejected it, so I vomited. That time a neurosurgeon drilled out the base of my skull, installed a plate there, and then drilled holes in my top 2 vertebrae to connect it all. Excruciating pain for months, but the worst was the first 2 weeks. Any time the pain meds wore off, I was in hell. It felt like nothing I've ever experienced before or since. I became an animal. I wasn't capable of human thought or anything but screaming. It continued for a long time in a more muted way. When I tried to turn my head reflexively, when I accidentally shifted it forward. But the worst by far was when I tried to sleep because I had no control over my movements then. I just woke up screaming many times each night. There was no escape. I was tired all the time, terrified of falling asleep again, but also terrified of every potential movement. I had a very secure neck brace on 247 for months, but nothing was enough to stop this pain. That sounds horrific. Hope you're doing better now. Receiving adriamycin chemo. The side effects made me wish for death at times. I had 2 rounds of adriamycin and 2 rounds of cisplatin, and I wish I couldn't remember them. I was nearly dead anyway when my doctor started me on it, came to the emergency room with a lung full of fluid, congestive heart failure, a heart rate of 160, and unable to lay flat because I couldn't breathe, and therefore couldn't sleep. The techs had to rig up an office chair for me to sit in for a CT and MRI so they could figure out what was wrong. They ended up finding a tumor over 8 centimeters wide and 17 centimeters long pressing into my heart between the heart and the lung. 4 rounds of chemo later and a chest crack, and here I am. I'm 3 years cancer-free now, so I guess everything turned out okay in the end. When I was a kid, I was severely ill with a virus which led to extreme dehydration. At one stage I couldn't hold down food or water for days. I frequently woke up with severe abdominal cramps, but one night I woke up and thought my head was splitting open with the worst migraine of my life. I was in so much pain that I couldn't stand or see. I just curled up and begged for the pain to stop. My father carried me to the doctors and my mother sat with me while the doctor told them it was just a virus and it will pass. The doctor had been saying this for nearly 2 months. My mother snapped and demanded the doctor to at least examine me and not dismiss me. The doctor quickly concluded my appendix had burst and to bring me to her. The second my father carried me into her, the nurse just took me to the back and I was rushed to ICU. Turned out the cramps were also from dehydration and the virus caused my lungs to collapse and gave me pneumonia. The headache and cramps was something I never want to experience again, and make sure to find a way to always be hydrated. I was in so much pain I didn't even notice my lungs were failing. Wow, duck that doctor. WTF. Honestly, wasn't shocked reading this. I'll be dismissed 3 to 4 times before anything I have is looked at. Now I collect dismissals in writing, so when there is a big problem I have the trail. Edit, very sad this is so popular and how many others have the same stories. When is the world going to wake up? Shattered my ankle getting hit by a car while walking. That wasn't the most painful part. Went to hospital to set it, cool. Was transferred to another hospital after a couple days closer to home. They took x-rays and realized the set was not good, so they had to re-break my ankle and set it correctly. That part hurt the most. Edit, it's possible they didn't re-break it per se, but they did have to reset it and that pain was intense. I was also low priority that night due to gunshot victims in the hospital. I had been waiting in the hallway on a stretcher for hours until I was brought to some makeshift area, and therefore I don't remember getting any extra pain meds as I was not put under or sedated. While skateboarding a few years ago, I broke and dislocated my ankle so badly that my foot was pointing like 50 degrees off center. The visual was 10 times worse than the pain. While I was getting it set in the hospital, they gave me a sedative of what I later learned was a blend of ketamine and propofol. It didn't put me under, but rather made me trip complete balls. When I came out of it, I was like, do you know how ducking psychedelic that stuff is? To the attending physicians. One of them laughed and basically said, well, we have some good news and some bad news. We messed up the setting, but you get to go on another trip. It was worth it. When one of my kids was about 4, he came off his scooter and cut his foot badly enough it needed 4 or 5 stitches. They whacked him up with ketamine and he started asking everyone in the room, me, his mother, doc, nurse, etc., if they were his mother. I think he was looking into other dimensions at the time. Kidney stones. My girlfriend passed one in October. Took over 2 weeks and 2 trips to the ER for pain meds. I've never seen someone in such constant pain and discomfort before. At one point we were doing jumping jacks at 3 a.m. because we read it can help move the stone. It did actually help with her pain. You are a great partner to make it a wee problem. It is a wee problem. I have cluster headaches. When it gets very bad I legit think about jumping out of the window. It's like someone stabbing your head with a glowing hot knife. And the best part is that you cannot really do something about it. They're called suicide headaches for a reason, my friend. Sorry you have to put up with that shit. Edit, holy moly. Thank you everyone for your support. I'm literally crying in my car on my lunch break. As you can imagine, I've been feeling pretty isolated and down while dealing with all of this, and it means so much to me to have all of you offer such kind words. For the past year, I was having migraines 25 to 30 days a month. I feel, like an empty shell of the person I used to be. I stopped seeing my friends, I seriously considered quitting my job and applying for disability. I moved back in with my mom so she could help me with basic shit like cooking and doing laundry. I've had chronic major depression since I was 12. I've abused drugs in the past. I've been at rock bottom many times before, but nothing made me want to kill myself more than the pain of chronic migraines. I tried so many different medications, one of which caused wacky, rare hallucinations on par with LSD, and I finally found something that's brought me relief. I'm on day 33 and counting of being migraine-free for the first time in years, really. What a ducking experience this has been.